Hi, welcome to Kurt's Ultimate Punching Power Technique Show, episode 6. I think we're on now. And so, in this video, I'm just going to go over to how to have a complete strike, like a complete punch. How do you hit in such a way that it's like you think, oh, that hit was not lacking. Right? So, put yourself online and punch the bag, and there'll be no shortage of advice on how you could fill out that punch a little bit more and make that punch a little bit better. Right? And people say to do it at do things at different speeds, do things with different sequences. Do it harder, do it faster, do it while you're moving around more, right? They'll come and there'll be any number of ways to do it more. So what do you do? Do you go, oh man, okay, like my elbows, I tuck my elbows and then now my striking is complete? I would say no. So really what it is that your half of your striking component is your body, and the other half is your mind. Most people think that the mind game is not physical, but it's the sum total of all the stuff happening in the space or in the field, and that space moves with you. Right? And so your relationship to the space of your mind can be a couple of different arrangements. One of which is you can be moving through the space. And when you're moving through the space, it doesn't really matter what the space is doing exactly, because the body's moving through the space, right? And then the other one is to be sort of receptive, listening. So the body is moving in such a way that the space is felt the most. And so that's listening, that's counter punching, right? And so you're not moving through the space, but you're only moving where the space moves you. And so that's really slow unless you have somebody to move the space around for you, or you can become schizophrenic and move the space around yourself. So, not exactly schizophrenic, I kid you, half jesting. You can move the space around the body a little bit, quite a bit, to make it so that you are moving with the mind and not moving through the mind. You can make your attention go, or your habit, or your repetition, and you can get it so that the mind, which is going to be all the different patterns and stuff that you're doing, you can get it so that the mind is going in that direction, and you can be surfing it, right? Which means having a movement pattern that is situationally appropriate. Like, how do you know that your movement is situationally appropriate? And it's tuned into and being moved by mind. Unless you're like a very special person or something like that, normally if you tune into mind, there's really, like, if I don't disturb anything, and I stay with my source of being, there's not much, it's, unless things are pretty crazy, it's pretty chill. But the correct movement is being floated in that. That's where it's correct. And so since the correct movement is the floating, the only time that you're moving very fast is if you're moving with all of the mind. If the mind has started to go, if there's a wave going that way, and that's fundamentally different than effort. People do exercise that's effort for effort's sake, and they end up moving through the mind like just on how they can press or drag off of it. It's hard to explain. There's like there's a type of focus, there's this self focus of like, am I doing it right? And so that's the alignment, the posture, the any of these things, and then that breaks the focus of like, what's the surrounding environment doing? And so when you do a complete punch, you're just taking the surrounding environment into account, right? So I want to make sure that I'm always hitting with the surrounding environment. And I can get repetition in cycling to make the surrounding environment do a predictable thing, so I could practice something like punching. The reason I can practice punching this way is if I do repetitions, there's this sort of habit that wants to go, and I can ride that. I can make sure that I'm focused and riding that. And in reality, like this, what I'm talking about is not separate from a focus, is not separate from awareness. So the ability to like sense what the space is doing and even push on it. Like if you're aware of being aware, you can actually push on. Anytime you're focusing your attention, it's awareness pushing on awareness. Right? You're just aware. And so like if you direct your attention and so it's that direction of attention is a little bit like just one little thing, and you don't think it can do very much, but like if you learn the correct feel or the correct habits, you can go back and forth through attention and generate a substantial amount of thrust, similar to sculling or going like in a circle. At first it doesn't do anything, but after 10 times you can get like you can get a vortice going. You can get all the water, like maybe you can't make very big waves, but if you move at the resonant frequency of the surface, like very quickly, the water around you starts to get like very amplified. And so the awareness's ability to press on awareness is kind of like swimming, to where at first you might be doing it and getting nothing, and it's like not knowing how to swim. But if you see the mechanics of how the awareness and like pushes on each other, then you can start to swim basically in awareness. And once you learn how to swim in awareness, there's other options like finding currents, finding areas where waves break, stuff like that. And so just getting all of that in the hit. So you're just hitting everything. It doesn't have to be like a maniac. Just sort of get everything involved. And half of that everything is like, good body mechanics, and then half of that everything is the mind game. Which is really just like it's like a water game.